Well, hello everyone. Welcome to another wonderful Whiskey Wednesday here at Midnight Hatter Live, the weekly variety show where we talk Gunpla, Gundam, tabletop gaming, video gaming, all the good stuff really in life. I am your host, of course, Steven, and joining me as always is the excellent Adam Blue. How are you doing, buddy?
Hey, doing good. Always glad to do this. It's always the signal middle of the week. It's almost done. Let's just get some chilling out of the way, some fun hobby stuff instead of, the normal weekday stuff. And
Yeah, fighting the
you got
daily grind.
whiskey? I've got my which one is this? The peach and honey. This is helpful during that daily grind.
Yes,
Um
yeah, that's a So I'm a big fan of the AHA brand seltzers. The one that I recently tried, what is it? I think it's blueberry pomegranate.
oh yeah,
Um,
I think you were telling me about
that's
that or
that's a
something.
good
Yeah.
one.
That sounds good.
I enjoy that one. But peach and honey, delicious combo.
I know. It's like I'm tricking myself that I'm drinking juice and it works, you know.
Well,
But
yeah, that's my favorite part about the whole seltzer water craze, right? Is that
oh,
it feels like you're
mm,
cheating.
refreshing. I know. I know. But hey, Robert, as always, is in the chat, and then Captain Bigglesworth. That is an awesome name. Um, I don't know if I've met you, Captain Bigglesworth, before, but glad you could join us. Austin Powers. I'm sure that's maybe a reference.
I
Mr.
hope
Bigglesworth.
so. I would hope so.
Zionic Shadow. Good to see you. Trickavec. Good to see you. So
Yeah,
cool.
how's it going, everybody? Good to see you all in chat. Hope you all are excited about tonight. I think this is going to be a fun discussion because this is something that I came across sort of last week as I was working on some projects. As you can see, I've updated my scenery in here. We've got the
Oh,
1 to 144th scale Argama launch deck. So I'm probably just gonna cycle in different kits that I've got on the shelf, week in, week out, just to keep things interesting.
good idea. But only Zeta kits, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Or
I
is
think
that
I
even?
probably have enough Zetas to throw up there,
Oh, wow. Okay.
or at least
Yeah, it's
Zeta
just reaching.
era, Titans
Okay.
kits. I think I need to finish that Hyzak that we've been working on.
Oh
But
yeah.
that's part of what we're talking about tonight because I've been recording a video about a build that I've been doing and I encountered some issues, and I don't know about you guys, but I am actually really bad at building and customizing Gunpla, and I
Says the
find
guy that has a channel that builds and customizes complete.
yeah, right. It's like finding out that your pastor smokes weed. It's it's one of those things where honestly I struggle with this a lot, and it's a conversation that I wanted to have on the podcast. Oh, hey, thank you guys for the follow. Um this is one of the things that I wanted to have a conversation about because I hope that we can kind of delve into some of the things that will help other Gunpla builders get out of that funk and avoid some of the mistakes that I have made in the past. And it's not necessarily about avoiding 100% of your mistakes, but how to cope with mistakes as you make them so that you don't make them worse. And that's where the whole idea of the death spiral comes from, is that one of the things that I am infamous for is if I'm painting a kit, especially if I'm doing sort of destructive edits as I might call them, where it's like it's a paint or I'm using some plastic cement, something like that, and I screw something up, I have a habit of making it 10 times worse by
Trying to fix it.
trying to fix it. So I'm gonna go over some of the tips that I have, and I shot out a question to the patrons on Patreon to see if they had any tips. Didn't get anything back so far. So if you guys have anything in the chat, drop it in there, and let's talk about how you cope with making mistakes in Gunpla or in life. Personally, I think that some of these tips, well, once I lay these things out for you, I think you guys are going to agree that not only are they useful when you're dealing with, your Warhammer minis or your Gunpla, but these are things that you could just take to the bank. There are things that you could do with marriages and children. Who knows?
Oh,
I don't
I'm
know.
intrigued. No,
Maybe
this is
maybe
good.
I'm overselling it.
I don't know. Gunpla is life. So,
Gunpla is life and freedom.
oh yeah, there you go,
Um,
freedom.
so,
Literally a Gunpla.
Fog Color History Project, good middle of the night from Poland. I am happy to
Oh,
finally
that's cool.
have a Polish viewer. Welcome to the chat. I am happy to have you here. Zionic Shadow says he's bad at building and customizing too. I call BS on that because I've seen some of your work.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
I'm glad, Fog Color, I'm glad that you ask what type of paint that I use. I actually kind of vary depending on what I'm doing. So I've got some Testors, model paints, some enamel paints. I've got some Vallejo model color acrylics that I use when I'm doing little hand painting. But, I tend to use whatever the job calls for. Um,
And is that just for trial and error?
yeah, it's a I'll cite some specific examples when we get to point number 2, I believe it is, but yeah,
Uh,
I think that there are certain tools that suit themselves to certain jobs a little bit better than others. What up from LAX, nonstop collectors,
nonstop.
nonstop gamers, Ian? Good to hear from you. I hope that you
Yeah.
travel well, travel safely. I'm excited for your trip. We need to schedule a little nonstop meetup for sure.
Oh yeah. Good idea.
Shirt Lad, most of my Gunpla customization runs on a combination of human folly and lethal doses of copium. Yeah. Tamiya works best for me with paint. Yeah, Tamiya products are generally pretty solid. I think you would agree with that, right, Adam?
Yeah. Usually at the end of the day, whenever I'm looking through my stuff, a lot of it, I mean, I have something as simple as tape. Those little they're not Q-tips, but that style thing. Yeah, exactly. The
Oh
tape.
yeah, the
Um,
little
yeah,
little masking
yeah.
tape dispenser.
Nesting.
Yeah, a little Tamiya
Even the
guy.
ink. And even the chrome and gold, yeah, gold, yeah, the metallic little paints I use for dry brushing. It's like a lot of stuff happens to be Tamiya. Yeah.
Yeah, Tamiya is a fantastic brand with a fantastic reputation for sure. Can't recommend their stuff enough, especially when it comes to the weathering master kits, which I have some little secrets and hacks when it comes to weathering that are a little unorthodox for saving money, of course. But the Tamiya weathering master kits are basically like little makeup brushes. They're like little touch-up kits, which is
That's
kind of
what Amber
hilarious.
Heard uses, right?
Yes, indeed. Yeah, it's
It's like when they were calling her out for having the makeup kit or bruise kit. It's like, no, this is for my minis.
right. No, it's for when your dog or for when your Gunpla steps on a bee. Um, but yeah, no. Tamiya is a fantastic brand, and like I said, can't recommend most of their stuff enough. I will get to some things that I would not recommend, but
Good.
um. But yeah, like I said, good to see you guys in chat. I'm glad you guys are enjoying the conversation so far. I'm going to dive right into it if you're okay with that, Adam, and talk about
Oh
our
yeah.
first tip. This is the hot tip. This is probably the most important thing when it comes to screwing up a Gunpla. Is number 1, walk away. I don't mean just walk away from the part that you're working on. I mean walk away from the project entirely. Put some physical distance in between you and the thing that you're working on. Unless it is sitting in acetone and you are convinced that that thing is going to melt if you don't watch it, do not touch it anymore. And the reason I say this is because when I've been painting kits and I've got some kits that are on. See, I'm already messing things up again. I've got some kits that are on some spray sticks here that need to be touched up with a little bit of flat coat, matte coat. Um, I've been messing up some of the paint work on this kit that I've been working on, and one of the worst things that I have found that I do is either A, I will try to fix the immediate paint error that I've made. And in this case, with this particular kit, shout out to my guy Juby, IT Commander on Discord, for sending me this kit. This is actually a vintage 1990 Zeta Gundam wave shooter type. And one of the things that I like about this is that it's actually a full video coming to YouTube soon, of course,
Oh, nice.
of the build and of the customizations that I've done. But one of the things I really like about this kit is that it is, as far as I know, the only high grade Zeta kit that features a fully functional transformation gimmick without using any option parts. The entire thing transforms into Wave Rider mode without having to swap in, Wave Rider parts. Now, the downside is being a kit from 1990, the wings are solid black. So I wanted to paint some red accents on it. And, it's not the type of thing that I would airbrush. So I
Okay.
went in and did some hand painting on these guys. Looks great now. I mean, I think you would
Yeah,
agree.
it
This
does. Yeah, because I didn't know what you were calling out. Is that a high grade that you were going to talk about? You did something, but a nine, because even the 90 ones, the proportions are a little different, right? A little chonkier,
Yeah,
would
a
you
little
say?
chonkier,
Yeah.
a little blockier, which I kind of appreciate that. Like
Yeah.
those
It
old
looks like,
school oil painted Gundams.
yeah, it looks like those Kunio or Okiara designs, like straight up lifted from that, if I'm saying his name
Exactly.
correctly.
Exactly right. So, being that I, of course, suffer from delirium tremors, whatever the case may be,
Yeah.
I have shaky hand syndrome, right? So, of course,
Okay.
I'm prone to making mistakes when it comes to hand painting Gundams. And when I mess things up, one of the first things that I do is try to fix it immediately. And that is the absolute worst thing you can do is mess with wet paint because you are just going to get it everywhere. You're going to ruin the part you're working on. And almost a greater sin is sometimes I will sit there and I'm like, "Oh, I screwed that wing up. I'm going to set that wing aside and then I'm going to pick up this other one that looks great and then I'm going to try and paint it correctly even though I just messed up the one that I'm painting and wouldn't you know it, I screw up both wings in one shot."
Wow. So, that's it's funny because with this tip number one, this walk away, you were right. Like, without joking, this can apply to a lot of things. The first thing reminded me of, like, let's say a boss in a video game. You're repeatedly trying to beat the boss and you can't. You step away. Sometimes you come back the next day and it's the first try.
Yeah,
You know, it's because you're like clearing your mind of getting so built up of that focus. I think you can. Another thing is with relationships with people. Like if you get into a little fight and sometimes you're just trying to get at it, but it's like step away, recompose yourself, calm down. Yeah,
exactly
that
right.
all. Would you say the hand shaking that you get also maybe comes and goes depending on
Well, yeah,
what state you're in?
I think that you tend to get frustrated if you're working on something and you mess up. Um,
Mhm.
eh, I don't know how many of the audience are athletes, but I used to play soccer both in school and recreationally. And one of the rules we had as a soccer team was if you win a penalty, if you're the guy that gets fouled in the box and win a penalty kick, you're not the guy that takes the penalty kick because your nerves are all torn up. Maybe you're still hurting
Mhm.
from being knocked over, you know, and so my job, basically, when I was
Yeah.
playing right winger, would be to run in the box with the ball, get knocked over by someone who was bigger and stronger than me, and then I let the striker take the kick and score us a goal. And that was my job.
Oh
Was
wow.
I was just the draw foul guy. And
I didn't know that was a thing in soccer. I don't pay attention to soccer, but I didn't know that was a thing.
you know,
That's
I,
interesting.
it's I guess it's kind of like basketball. I think soccer and basketball share a lot more in common than people give them credit for, despite the fact that the score lines are obviously vastly different. you know,
Yeah.
you have basketball games that are like 121 to 106 versus soccer games that
Yeah.
might end 1-0. But
Yeah, that's true.
the positioning and the tactics are kind of similar, and drawing fouls is definitely something that's kind of it's a sneaky way to give yourself an option to score a goal.
You know what? That just reminded me because that's making me think, oh, the strategy in soccer. And then it just popped up. What if they made a real time strategy soccer game where the AI is doing its thing, but as you're on the field, you can, or as you're looking at the field, you can click on anyone and then change their tell them to what to do. But then once that task is done, they'll go back into. I know that's off topic, but that just came into my head.
No,
Command and conquer,
that's
but soccer. I don't know why.
I think that they're I'll have to talk to my buddy about that because I've got a friend that's a fan of the same soccer team that I am, Arsenal,
Oh, okay,
and
there you go. Yeah.
he plays a game called Football Manager, which is like you kind of play as a
Oh yeah.
football coach, like a soccer coach. And I don't know that you do anything during the games, but it's like it's a very tactically oriented game where it's like I'm gonna put these players here, and I'm gonna sign this guy to a 10-year contract and make sure that he has options for merchandising and stuff like that.
It's
It's a
it's
very
so
technical
crazy.
game. It's which
I
is
hear about those a lot though. Those are popular,
and
but
those are
I've never
more
played
fun than honestly like playing going out and playing soccer, I'll be honest with you. So let's see. Fog Color says, "Yes, I'm in the army. I've rolled better is wait, hold on. I'm misreading that. I have rolled better is give a break than make something shitty. Yes. I think I'm understanding what you're saying correctly. Um, it's better to take a break than to
yeah,
continue
to
down
continue
the
on.
wrong path, right?
Yeah.
Zeonic Shadow says, "I am the bait." That's 100% true. Being the small guy, being the small Mexican, I'm the guy that gets taken out. Shirt Lad says, "FIFA meets Command and Conquer." Essentially, yeah, that's what
Oh,
Football Manager is.
I love the time to Kirov rush the goalkeeper. Yeah, man, playing so much CNC back in the day. Red alert. But
uh, Old school.
yeah, especially with the paint too, because I think patience is like part of this walk away also. Because walking
Yes,
away is deliberately saying patience. Because so many times when I would paint a spot and I mess it up right then, every time I don't have the patience and I have to fix it, but every time I mess it up even worse. But
exactly.
it's like I can't let it exist bad. So I have to try to fix it.
And the number one culprit of that is when you're using
Oh
plastic
yeah.
cement. This is a great this is the Mr. Hobby brand, but to me it makes a fantastic plastic cement. Great for not only have I found that you can seal up, you know, the seam lines between two kit parts and kind of make it a flush solid part. But I have actually as well in the past used this plastic cement to repair, for instance, I had messed up the head on my high grade Zazabi, and I kind of gouged out a little too much plastic and left a gap there. And I just took a little piece of runner and melted it in the plastic cement and used it to kind of fill in that gap. And now that it's been sanded and polished down, you
Wow.
can't even tell that there was a gap there. Which so plastic cement, a very valuable tool. However, you get a
Yeah.
little bit of that on your thumb when you press down on the plastic, and all of a sudden you have a
Is there?
thumbprint in your plastic.
Oh,
It's
well,
like,
what do you use to do you just maybe pour some in a separate thing and then drop the plastic in it and then still use the brush to apply it, or are you using gloves or
gloves would probably be a smarter idea.
do you
But
just use your fingers?
I go bare hand on everything because maybe I just like the tactile
Dirty work.
sensation of all of these different
Yeah,
chemicals that
there's
I'm
nothing wrong with
tinkering with.
that. I think we're coming from me with my entitlement. I'm all in here. Oh, I'm gonna build Gunpla for the first time, but I don't want to get my hands dirty. I guess really the only way to achieve your dream is to get dirty. That's
Yeah, you got to
probably
get a little dirty.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, what I've done in the past is usually I'll cut off a little piece of the runner, matching the plastic color, of course. I'll cut off a little piece and just kind of dab it in the plastic cement and kind of smear it on there, like cream cheese, and just kind of fill in those gaps. And then after it cures, you just sand it down and it's good to go. But again, that's something that takes patience, right? You
Yeah.
you can't
It does.
can't just like immediately patch it up and then it's perfect. It takes a little bit of time. You got to let it cure. You got to let it do its thing.
Yeah, and if you want to avoid a situation like to have to walk away, reminds me of when panel lining, where it's like
There you
really
go.
take your time. it's not going to be perfect. In fact, there's going to be mistakes. You just have to then know you're going to go back and fix it. Make that as part of the panel lining.
100%. Robert, good to see you back in chat. Yes, I agree. Fog color, that patience is the number one issue, and I think that's going to be generally the theme of the 3 tips that we're talking about here tonight. Is that the lack of patience and trying to do things quickly is where we mess up, and sometimes we just need to give ourselves a little bit of breathing space in order to do things the right way. Um, what was that? Zeonic Shadow. I see Forza Italy. Let me tell you something. My Italian wife made for me a fantastic braised short rib ragu this past was it Monday? She's destroying my diet, and you guys gotta go easy on all this pasta. Fog color, we want results early and quickly, but it's the wrong way out. 100% agree with that. Robert, query for you and Adam. For my Gundam fiction stories, at what point should I walk away from the one story and pick up writing another, or should I walk away completely from my writing? You know, that's an interesting question, and I have a lot of opinions on that.
On writing. Yeah.
Adam, do you wanna offer your advice to
Yeah.
both fan fiction writers and writers in general on this one?
Yeah, with writing, it's one of those things where when I'm stuck on something or I'm repeating something in my mind and I can't really get past it, yeah, I just walk away.
Yeah,
And I just start writing something completely different. So you brought that up. Walk away from one story and pick up writing another. Yeah, because then completely
100%.
different mindset can go in and then you might be more motivated. So that's really a good question. Yeah.
Yeah, and Robert in particular, I would recommend checking out Jake Parker on YouTube. He is a comic book artist. You know, he's a general illustrator. I'm a big fan of Jake Parker's work, but one of his sort of mantras is finished, not perfect, and or product, not project. And so one of the things that he talks about is in reference to, you know, any kind of creative endeavor is you need to finish small projects as opposed to working on your magnum opus, as opposed to trying to build this incredibly detailed, luxurious, creative world. And this is something that I tell all of my writer friends is that world building is a trap. You can get so in depth into world building and creating this massive universe, but if you don't have a single product or a single project, anything for people to consume that exists in that universe, then it might as well not exist at all, because
Yep.
no one's going to see it. It's all in your own mind. And so
Yeah.
better to have a small story. I'm talking about like a 20-page story set in a small town of your fantasy universe than to have 10,000 pages of lore and world building and maps and illustrations that people are never going to. And so,
Hmm.
and a lot of that I think is just like I said, it's finished, not perfect. Crank out small projects, and not only do you have more things for people to consume, but also you get experience from that, right? So like think about leveling up in a video game. If you only ever did the first sword slash of a combo in a video game, then you are going to be fantastic at that first sword slash. But you are never going to experience the upward slash and the downward stroke of the final part of the combo. In the same way, if you're trying to publish a story or you're trying to do something, you know, anything creative, like I said, you're never going to get the experience of finishing the project. So, like, in terms of Gunpla, for instance, let's say you are snap building and then you are panel lining and then you are painting. If you only ever get to panel lining, then you're never going to get the experience painting and you're never going to get better at doing that. So, it's better to bang out smaller kits and do lots of it's better to do lots of little high grades than it is to do one perfect grade that you never finish. Does that make sense?
Yeah. That that's a really good thing. You just that could be a clip on YouTube.
Clip it.
Because yeah, no, yeah, because I am struggling this right now because I want to build my own world that I have characters in, interesting stories, and sometimes I'm stuck. I don't know where to start, but it's because I have too much of the world in my head and I'm
Yeah,
not really narrowing it. And I mean that works for so much, like you were saying with video games. A lot of the little plus ones add up over time, and almost sometimes almost yeah, it's like you have a goal of something you want to do, but you don't realize how much of not just doing the goal, but to do the things leading up to it are so much more important than the
yeah,
goal. And yeah, that works for Gunpla, works for life, weightlifting or working out, any sort of
yeah,
thing that you need to, yeah, it's good.
100%. Yeah, like I said, this is like the positivity and building people upstream. I'm very excited
Okay,
about
I like it.
about everything that we are talking about here. Lucas Garrett, good to
Yeah.
see you in chat. I called you
Oh yeah,
out
you.
on Discord because I was like, man, YouTube's notification system is blowing it for me. I'm being shadow banned. I'm being censored.
Yeah,
um,
it's because of there's got to be some social thing we can come
yeah,
up with
I
all
don't
of a
know.
sudden.
It's the anti Gunpla movement.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Robert, I hope that my suggestions help. Yeah, like I said, check out
Yeah.
Jake Parker. Listen to some of his stuff on YouTube. He does some amazing illustrations. I'm a big fan of his work. Fog color, the thing, and the thing realism is what we need to take the deal with painting our characters and world. Yeah, verisimilitude is I think the
Mm,
big and I think that we're probably going to end up talking about this on the Gundam Explained podcast tomorrow. Is especially with regard to like Witch from Mercury. You know, you
yeah.
Adam, you dropped a video. If you guys didn't see it, check out in the description down below the Gundam Explained YouTube channel. Adam just released a video about you know, sort of not spoilers, but some speculation about the
Yeah.
future of where Witch from Mercury is going. And I think verisimilitude and kind of the world building aspect of it is something that you dive into really well. So,
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting what's going on with that.
Xeonic, I agree. High grades are the best builds. Got the SD December build. Yeah, gang, if you're not familiar with it, Zieg New York is putting together this. It is through Zieg New York, right? Correct me if I'm
Yeah.
wrong, but
Yeah.
the SD December build, it's kind of a free form build competition slash community build. Check that out both on the Gundam Explained Discord server and over on the Midnight Hatter Discord server. Links down below in the description.
Yeah, and on the 25th they have a 1 year uh anniversary stream going on. So,
So
yeah.
excited about that. Yes. Um, Goose, you say you joke about an anti-gunpla movement, but there is one. There actually is one, and we're not gonna go down that rabbit hole tonight. But there does seem to be an anti-gunpla community out there.
Hmm, interesting.
But I'd like to dive into our second point of the night. One of the things that I do to kind of avoid the gunpla death spiral is number two, the right the right tool for the job. And and sort of if we were to put a subtitle on that, if you don't know what the right tool is, then test, test, test. Um,
Okay.
so one of the things that I learned working on this Zeta kit is that so some of these fancy testers enamel paints that I was using, little model paints, they're fantastic. They are self-leveling, so I don't have to worry about brush strokes. Um, I'm a big fan of the Testers brand, and obviously, they have lots of experience doing automobile miniature painting products, and so
You're
that
saying
would
it's enamel. So, does that mean you would only use it on a specific surface type? Or could it
so I mean I think you could apply it to a lot of different surface types, and generally, when I paint a kit, I tend to sand it pretty well so that we got like a little bit of
Oh,
grit to work with, and we got something to stick to. In
okay.
particular, when I first started painting this Zeta kit, I was using a red tester. Got him right. I can reach behind I've got so many things on my desk right now. So yeah, this is like that cherry red, which tends to match most Gundam reds. I think that this is like the ideal, you know,
Oh, okay.
cherry red color that is on most Gundam kits. Um, one of the things that I learned about enamel paints is, kids, if you decide to invest in, say, a Tamiya panel line accent color, liquid panel liner, one of the things you ought to know is that enamel paints, such as this one, uh, are dissolved by the mineral spirits that are used to thin the ink for panel lining. So there's nothing quite as
Oh,
horrifying as when you finally finish painting a kit and you go to add some panel lines. You're like, well, am I going to use my silly little Gundam markers or am I going to use my Tamiya panel line fluid that, flows so beautifully into the panel lines um so
yeah.
easily?
Hey, it's my panel liner of choice all the time, 24/7.
Right.
But you, but that's okay. So the enamel breaks it down, or I mean,
So
it breaks the enamel.
yeah, there's nothing quite as horrifying as when you drop that little drop of panel line material and you watch the little fluid go through the little lines and it's like, oh, it,
Yeah.
I imagine that that's what doing heroin feels like when you watch how perfectly it fills in those lines.
Imagine.
Imagine. But then you start watching the red paint that you spent hours and hours hand painting onto this kit start bleeding onto the rest of the kit, and you're like, wait a second. The thinner that is used for making this panel alignment fluid actually dissolves enamel paints. And so don't use panel line fluid with enamel paints. Not something that I decided to look up
No.
beforehand, but I learned it the
Who
hard
knew?
way.
Yeah. Who knew except the first guy that found out that
Right.
way.
Who
So so that's interesting because that seems then that would be pretty strong. But is it just acrylic is made a different way where it's not it doesn't affect an acrylic paint?
Yeah, I mean,
Is-
once acrylic is cured, it's basically like hard plastic. Which
Oh,
for
okay.
better or worse, there's
I
some
guess
things,
that's
there's
true.
some
Yeah.
applications that make it better, some applications that make it worse, but um, I was hoping for something a little bit more durable out of the enamel paints, and sure enough, they just melted right off the plastic as soon as I put the aniline fluid on them. So,
So,
lesson learned. But
yeah.
that's not even the worst example I have of this particular issue. Is, for instance, I learned that my favorite go-to top coating material, the old
Krylon.
Krylon matte finish,
Yeah.
because I like a matte finish on my Gunpla. It makes them look
Same.
more like tiny robots as opposed to like
Yeah.
toys. Gives them that like kind of gritty texture.
Gritty. Yeah. The grit look to it. Yeah.
So one of the things that I learned about this particular product is that, say for instance, I mess up a panel line and I'm trying to use a little bit of 91% isopropyl alcohol to wash that panel line off. As it turns out, this alcohol reacts with this top coat and creates this disgusting white film on the surface of my Gunpla that is impossible to get rid of, and so then I end up having to strip the Gunpla entirely.
Wow. So this was with the Krylon.
So yeah, this was with this Krylon matte finish. For
Uh-huh.
some reason, all of the parts that I top coat with this Krylon matte finish, if they come in contact with anything higher than, I would say, 60% isopropyl alcohol, they get this white film on them that I can't sand off, I can't polish off. I just have to strip the entire part and start from scratch. And it's one of those things where, like, and this is where kind of the second part of the subheader of this particular tip comes into play, is I'm a big fan of plastic spoons, love plastic spoons, spray paint them, use them as your test beds, but also use the runners of your kits. And if you're worried about, well, is something going to affect the color of what I'm doing? If you have like a red part that you're going to top coat, go ahead and top coat your runner and then test your thinner, test your panel line color, test your alcohol, any kind of solvents, any kind of chemicals that you might end up using on that kit. Test them on the runner because that actually is the plastic that you're going to be working on.
Yeah.
I would have never noticed because I was using like white plastic spoons and I would top coat them with my matte finish. And no matter what I brush on them, I would have never known that they create this nasty white film on the surface of my kits because they're just not blue or black or whatever the color may be.
Let me grab one of the kits that I'd use that mat on, and you tell me if it's that same thing.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, Robert says I'm only on SSI. I don't know what that means. Let me know what that means. Zionic Shadow says cracks the paint. Yes, 100%.
Let's see if this might be really hard. Yeah, because it's not focusing.
There it is. Yeah, I
Okay,
see
there.
it now.
So let it get a little closer, and it looks like there's like a white, yeah, like film on it. Maybe I mean it could be I just did it incorrectly, but I was using panel line the Tamiya also on that, so I don't know if because I did the gloss, I did the Tamiya, some paints, and then I did the matte on top.
Yeah, and like generally speaking, I'm a big fan of mineral spirits because they are, well, supposedly odorless. They're not 100% odorless, but um less aggressive than like your acetones or alcohols and things like that. So you can use them to as paint thinners for most types of things. 100% 100% of the time mineral spirits are not going to melt your gunpla, which is good. Um but you're going to experience some issues, and I think that, the combination of mineral spirits or alcohol with whatever top coat material. I think that this is a lacquer finish. I don't know for sure. I mean, I have had experiences with this where even if I've painted a part in enamel and then I top coat it with this, I watch the enamel just turn to liquid and drip off of my part. And there's nothing more horrifying than that. But again, go back to
Yeah.
step one. Walk away. Don't try
Yeah.
to fix it on the spot because I guarantee you're going to make it worse.
And but you would, I bet, and this kind of goes back to number one real quick though. How many kits have you walked away from that you haven't got back to? Could you even count that?
Too many. Too many. No, honestly,
Yeah.
it's about 4 because I've got
Oh,
my Zeta
okay.
Plus, my Ruluka Zeta Plus
Oh
custom.
yeah.
I've got my Salem Mass custom Gundam Mark II. I've got a Zaku 2 that it's an older Zaku 2. It's a fair grade Zaku 2 before they started making the high grade line. I kind of started painting
Mhm.
him and customizing him, but I never finished that job because of when I started stripping the paint off, all of a sudden, there was like this white film on all of the parts and I couldn't understand why. Go figure. um, and then of course we discussed last week my Bawu, which hopefully I am
Yeah.
gonna get back to that guy because he's like 65% of the way done, maybe
Yeah.
85%.
That thing is cool. Yeah.
um, but yeah, so my number two tool is to use the right, or number two tip is to use the right tool. Look it up online. If you can't find the answer online, test it. And if you can't test it, don't do it. Because
Yeah, yeah, I know because you don't want to ruin, especially if you want to build a kit that's kind of hard to get. Sometimes cool kits are hard to get. I bet if you
yeah.
were to ask someone what's their favorite kit or what kit do they want, it's probably one that hasn't been re-released recently or something.
Oh,
Hey,
100%.
but when it comes to use the right tool, how many times have you come across a scenario where the right tool actually wasn't the right tool and it's something unrelated that happened to get the job done better? I don't know how often you come across that, but that seems like something that would be common.
I will say that there are some examples and sometimes where, you know, there are tools available to use that maybe it's there, but maybe there's something better. And one
Yeah.
example, Mr. Bones down here. Honestly, I might just leave him here because he's
I love it.
he's fantastic. But one of the things I mentioned to the folks over on the Gundam Explain Discord is that I've experimented in the past with color shift paints and things like that. Not necessarily in the Gunpla context. And you can go to Walmart; they have like color shift paint, all in one can, like one can finish. Sorry. This right here is
Nice.
I want to say it's a 1998 Gibson SG special that I custom painted back in college. So this is probably about
Wow.
10 years ago. So this guy, I use automotive spray paint, and it's a 3 paint combo kit where spray paint the guitar. Well, you spray paint. It's designed for like motorcycle helmets, right? And so again, like you said, the right tool might have been to use something else. I decided to use automotive paints for this particular application. And so what I've got
Yeah.
here is a guitar that I painted black, and then there were two separate coats that you have to put on afterwards in order to get this color shift effect that, depending on the light source, hopefully I am achieving the
Yeah, no,
desired
I can
effect.
see it. The fact that you painted that, that is sick. I mean, I'm a fan of instruments. I have my Schecter. It's off screen and
Oh,
over here,
awesome.
but
Yeah,
love it.
so I'm a big fan of how this turned out using these automotive paints and
Well, I mean, we're talking about this is not hand painted by me,
no,
but this
no.
is no, this is my Schecter. It's
But
just
I
cool to see
love
your
the
guitar,
ash
man. I saw
body.
that Gibson. Oh yeah, no, yeah, I really like this. Yeah, this is the C1 Elite. But anyway,
Beautiful.
like seeing that though, the way that's painted, like just to do it to an instrument, I never thought of doing that because I have another guitar. Um, wow, that looks really good, man.
So I mean, the idea of doing that to a Gunpla is extremely exciting and exhilarating to me. I
Yeah,
haven't chosen exactly what Gunpla I would do it and what color I would do, because honestly, this is probably my favorite color combination. It goes from like a bright orange to like a deep purple, which is like, you guys know how much I love purple.
hey, a
Um
Freet Knock would do good with that
For a
color.
second there, I thought you said afraid not, but freak
Oh,
knocked.
okay, yeah,
I'm a freak
yeah,
knocked.
yeah.
Um,
No, but that would do good with that one,
hey, it's a
or
good.
any of those noisy fairy.
There you
Uh,
go. Exactly.
yeah,
It's a perfect Xeon color.
yeah,
Um, Lucas
that's
says
true.
now
It is.
dueling guitar session.
Oh, that
I
would be sick.
I'm pretty sure Adam would shred me around the corner because I'm a
You
pop
never know.
melody guitarist, as people have
And
pointed out to me.
oh, okay, no, that's cool.
Goose
That's
says,
cool.
I want a kit just to test, get on the entry get. If you want a kit to
Oh, the
test
entry
on,
grade.
get the entry grade kits. Yes, 100%. I think entry grade kits are great for testing out new ideas. I wish that they would expand that line because obviously, you got kind of a limited palette there, right? You've got like the new
Yeah,
Gundam, you've got the Granddaddy. I think there's a Strike
and freak
Gundam.
the
Is that
strike. Yeah,
Strike?
and
Yeah.
I think that might be it. Um, yeah, you'd think they'd have a Zaku soon if they haven't already, like Sharzaku or something. Um,
That's a tough one to do because honestly, Zaku's are a much more dynamic design than traditional
yeah, there's a lot
Gundam.
of curves and angles and things that it's funny. Sometimes when I first saw the Zaku design, especially, it didn't make sense to me. But just over
Right.
time, it worked. I don't know. It's yeah,
Well, and that I always go back to that infamous quote from Kanuyo Ukawara where he talks about like the Xeon suits were much more fun to design for him in the original 0079 series because they weren't originally going to make action figures of them. And so he kind of had creative freedom. Like, I'm going to do whatever I want. Whereas the Gundam, like, they were going to make toys of it. So it's like, we want bright colors. It's got to be red, yellow, blue, and white.
yeah.
We want like bold, and it's got to be solid blocks. So, that's reflected. in the
And
design
what's
choices.
crazy is those Xeon designs from '79 and seeing nowadays with that Robot Spirits Ver anime line where they're taking how kind of unproportional or crazy some of it looks like the goof, for instance, and they're able to recreate it. Because a lot of times we prefer the look of the Gunpla scaling of than was in the original '79, like Azaku
Yeah.
looks goofier, but the Ver animes kind of keep that little goofier look to it.
And
I know I say goofy, and that might be the wrong way to describe it, but the kind of anime hand drawn look, I should say.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's more authentic. Got a little
yeah,
bit more
yeah,
character to it.
yeah. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
So, with that said, I would like to dive into our final tip of the night, or at least my final tip of the night. Like I said, drop any advice that you guys have down in the comments, down in the chat. I would love to read that stuff out. But finally, is number 3, have a plan. Um, the worst thing that you can do when it comes to Gunpla, Warhammer, whatever your hobby may be, is to just fly blind. Now, I'm not saying that you can't improvise, you can't mix things up on the fly, because sometimes a little bit of inspiration strikes you. I'm going to go ahead and do something a little different. That's fine. But let's say, for instance, when you're working on something like Gunpla, where you have to take into account things like symmetry, you've got things like, well, the right arm has to look like the left arm. So the last thing you want to do is start painting the left arm one way. If you change your mind, you're going to have to do both of them. So, you know, it's not necessarily sticking to the plan, but have a plan.
I think that makes sense a lot. That's reminding me, and it's almost like it's really highlighting how your 3 points actually all kind of work together. You have to think of each one as you go because I'll get a kit, start the straight build.
Yep.
I'm done with the straight build, and then I'll kind of look at where I'll have to do panel lining or something, or and then as I'm panel lining, I'm like, oh wait a minute, there's actually areas I should probably color first or paint first, but I'm doing this, I'll just get it done
Yeah.
and then I'll just paint. And then, like I'm starting to like compound. Not only am I not planning out what I'm doing, but I'm also not having the patience and I'm not just walking away to kind of formalize the plan and I'm not even using the right tool. There was a time recently where I didn't have the right yellow paint for a thruster, so I just got a marker, a Gundam marker, so it would work, but it wasn't really made for that, and it didn't turn out that great. But I was rushing.
Yeah.
I was just like, "I'm done," and
Well,
not
and
as fulfilling. Yeah,
I think that that's probably a good way of putting it. It's you can get it done, and it
yeah,
might even look good. Does it look great? I don't know, but is it fulfilling? That's the strong question, and I think that
yeah,
you and I did that stream together when I first started working on that Hyzak custom,
yeah,
where it's like, we went down and broke down every part of the kit because we had the kit built, we had the snap build
yeah,
done, we had the reference photo that we were working from, and it's like, this is what we're going to have to do. This is where things are going to, well, here's the plan that I have to address the fact that this skirt maybe is a little bit square or blocked off where, the high grade kit has kind of a certain spherical model to it. Um, and but again, you don't have to necessarily adhere to that plan like it's the Bible, but just having a plan so that you have thought ahead and well, I know that I'm going to have to connect this part at some point. Um, you know, friend of ours from the Discord server, Rogue New Type, mentioned that he
mm,
has been working on his Lady Un custom
yeah,
Leo, which is a fantastic kit. Guys, if you're not on the Gundam Explained Discord, go check it out. Links down in the description. Rogue New Type has been working on this Lady Un custom Leo, which is so freaking cool looking because it's
yeah.
like, I kind of feel bad that Zex never got a custom Leo. Like Char got a custom Zaku, but Zex
Oh,
didn't get a
yeah,
custom Leo in Gundam Wing. But so what Rogue New Type has been doing, he's got a Gundam Nobel from G Gundam that's got kind of a
oh,
feminine
yeah,
build to it, and he's combining it with the high grade Leo kit. And one of the things that he ran into is that in the process of plastic cementing things together, he accidentally fused two parts together that he didn't mean to, as a result of not having that. Like, it was kind of an on the whim sort of decision to edit that, where it's like, okay, I want to put this Leo leg skirt over top of the Nobel Gundam thigh, and as you know, I'm gonna apply a little bit of plastic cement. This stuff is dangerous, kids. Don't mess with it. That is, if there's one thing to take away from this stream, it's to be careful with your plastic cement. And now as a result of that, the sleeve that was supposed to be on the leg is now fused to the leg. That's one of those things where it's like, if you snap build the kits out and you make these decisions beforehand, you can always change your mind later. But what you can't do is, if you mess it up in the process, you can't go back and change your mind after the fact.
Yeah, I almost feel like with gluing, because I there's a kit I'm gonna have to build here shortly. It's actually the bottom of down here. It's one of those dioramas, but it requires gluing. It's Gundam, but it requires gluing, and so it's like I'm kind of scared. I have that cement, but I was almost thinking of maybe doing a pre-glue with something else, and whatever doesn't fully stick, I fill it with that cement. Maybe I don't know. I don't know if you've heard of that being done. Multiple glue types to I don't know.
I have tinkered with that, and again, with this exact kit in question that I have been working with, one of the issues that I had was I had to paint the wing of this. I would have preferred to have painted it after I plastic cemented the wing shut, because it's a three-part wing. We've got the red-tailed wing part that is attached at a joint in order to allow it to bend, and then we've got the two-part sandwich wing that is the wing binder. In an ideal world, what I would have liked to do is use some plastic cement to close the wing binder around this wing. But if I had done that before painting, then I would not have been able to spray it. I would have had to put some masking tape over the red to make sure that I don't spray it black. So in this particular instance, what I ended up doing was I sprayed all three parts of the wing in my Citadel Chaos Black primer, which I'm going to tell you, the Citadel Chaos Black primer might as well be a paint and primer in one, because the finished product is just as
Does it have a
solid.
matte
It's got a
finish to it?
it's got a matte finish to it. It's a solid
Nice.
black. It's beautiful. So
Okay.
and Citadel makes three different paint primer sprays. There's the white, there's the gray, and then Chaos Black. I highly recommend them for any sort of Gunpla, Warhammer miniatures, anything that you're painting, whether you're doing it for primering or if you want to use it as the final color. It's gorgeous looking. So in this particular case, I ended up using super glue to fuse the parts around the wing binder here. Now, one of the things that I ran into was I had a little bit of super glue bleed into the upper part of the wing, and so when I had the wing like this, it looked gorgeous. And then I folded it out, and there
Can you
was a
tell?
huge smudge of super glue right here that it never
Was
cured.
dragged by it being moved or from the thumb? Oh, okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
so it was pulled out from the inside of the kit. Now I think you might agree that I did a pretty good job removing any super glue
Yeah,
residue from that.
you must have, because that looks like a completed part.
Yes.
It,
But
are you having to do any more touch-ups on that
no,
part?
that's the final
Okay. Hey, you've
kit.
done it, man.
So yeah, we nailed it.
Nice.
But again, it took taking a little bit of my own
Yeah.
advice. I was like, saw this big glob of super glue on there, and I was like, I could throw a little bit of alcohol on it, melt that super glue, peel it off. If I do that, then I know for a fact that top coat that I put on the wing is going to turn white, and then I'm going to have to repaint it again anyway. So I'm like, let me just walk away from this project. I'm not even going to touch this Zeta. You know what? I'm going to go play with my Hyakushiki, whatever it is. Walk away from the project for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, whatever it takes. Put some distance between you and whatever you're working on, and give yourself an opportunity to come up with a solution that is not only expedient but the right solution, correct solution,
Thoughtful.
whatever the
You'll have
phrasing
kind of
might
a
be.
clearer mind by the time that you want to revisit too, you know. Or if
Exactly.
like you went to another activity to kind of clear your mind as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
settle
that
down,
kind of helps.
get in your zen space, whatever it
Oh
is you
yeah.
need to do. Um, the last thing you want to do is be all worked up. And I think
Yeah.
there's a great scene in the classic film Tommy Boy where Chris Farley talks about well, I have my sail here and I'm trying to, and my sail's a delicate pet and it's a naughty pet. You're naughty. You're naughty. and,
I remember all
and then I rip it. Yeah, that's exactly what
classic.
happens. Is you get
Yeah.
excited, you get all excited, and then you just tear your project to shreds because you are
Yeah. Elevated.
worked
Some
up.
way elevated and not in the mindset. Yeah.
Exactly
Oh, hey,
right.
Rogue, what
Hey, Rogue New Type is in here. Wanted to drop by and say hi. Just got off work. Hey, yes, we just mentioned you, but I remembered our conversation earlier. You were talking about your Lady Uncustom. So glad to have you in chat here, if only for a moment. Um, Nonstop collectors. That's great, Rogue. Uh, Ionic Shadow says my straight builds are done in 1 day. Custom build in 2 to 3 weeks. You are much faster than I. It must be all that Dunkin' Donuts coffee because I'm chugging energy drinks over here and I don't have the spirit.
But I would say if I'm yeah, I haven't done like a crazy custom like you guys have, but like for instance with my North American Gundam where I gave it battle damage and all that stuff, that actually just took a day. Maybe a day or two. It was just building it was fast, and then that type of work is a little quicker. And that's something too, the battle damage where having a plan maybe doesn't have to apply, having the right tool maybe doesn't have to apply. You can
Yeah,
kind of do whatever you want with battle damage.
this is true. Well, and that's always that is the perfect. You know what? If I were to put a number 4 on this list, it would be do a battle damage custom because
Yeah, then
because
you can do whatever.
no, now I don't know. I don't think that applies to relationships or like a job or anything. You can't really do a battle damage relationship. If you do, I will call the police on you.
Yeah,
um,
yeah, that's true. That's the one thing that doesn't carry over anywhere else. Yeah.
no. But no, that's a great point. And honestly, that's kind of the caveat to have a plan is don't stick to the plan because you never know what might strike you as
Yeah. A
as
better
inspiration.
approach, or yes, something completely different, but maybe it opened your mind to a different idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
Reassess.
Always be flexible. I think would probably
Yeah.
be the takeaway from that is don't be so rigid and committed to one final product. And this kind of goes back to what we were talking about with Robert is whole finished not perfect, right? You know, perfect is something that we kind of assign a value to where it's like this is my vision of what perfect is. But in actuality, sometimes if I'm working on a kit and I completely trash it for whatever reason, I soaked it in bleach too long trying to remove some paint. Oh, hey, cheers, Lucas Garrett. Appreciate you becoming a member.
Oh
Um,
yeah. Okay.
you know, if I trash a kit because I soaked it in bleach too long or soaked it in acetone or something, and I decide, you know what, this should be a battle damage kit, fine. I'm going to be flexible with that and accept that the perfect version of kit in particular is the battle damage version. Maybe not the version that I had set out in my first start of the project. The it can be difficult. I'm not going to presume that this is something that is easy for people to accept, because I struggle with it a lot, and that's really the backbone of this stream is that I struggle with these issues a lot. Is I screw up a paint job, and then the first thing I want to do is I reach for my sander, and I'm like, I need to get that paint off. I need to fix this. And things that I've learned in the last 13 years of building Gunpla is slow down, patient, let what it's going to be. And
Yeah.
and I think that Adam, you'd probably agree that this applies to a lot of things outside of Gunpla, in hobbies, Warhammer, um,
Yep.
D&D miniatures, whatever the case may be. And in life, it's like, slow down, be patient, walk away from the situation, create some physical space between projects, come back to it with a fresh, clear head, have a plan, but don't necessarily commit to that plan. Then, if there are tools involved, right tools, because easy to easy to try and fix a problem with the wrong. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. And little tiny things to think about, especially if this is causing frustration, like, as you're doing the kit is like 10 deep breaths. Sometimes that's like such a little thing, or just walking out among trees. Just looking at some trees for about 5 minutes. That kind of helps your neural pathways kind of reset.
if you've
Uh,
got a mantra that you like to recite to yourself,
yeah,
you use that. There's all kinds of meditative practices that you can to kind of recenter yourself not not screw things up worse. And like I said, these types of things are valuable for relationships too.
yeah,
Sometimes not to get too personal, but like sometimes I say the wrong thing. Hey, I blow it with someone. I say the wrong thing. I offend them. I say something that cuts a little too deep. And you know what? The last thing that you want to do talking to someone, say something you might think offended them, is to try and dig yourself out of the hole that you just dug. Is like, well, I didn't mean it that way. I was trying to, and you're only gonna
just
make it
worse.
worse. You're gonna make it worse. You're
Yeah,
gonna smudge the paint. You're gonna ruin the gunpla. Walk away from the situation. Move yourself from that physically, not just not
mm,
like I said, one of the reasons that I keep my gunpla studio in my garage and not at my desk is because I can walk out of my garage and say, I'm not even going to look at this until I'm ready to process it. Walk away from
yeah,
that situation, give that person time to process what just happened, come back to it with a fresh, clear head. It's it's the
yep.
golden ticket.
It is for sure.
Um, but I feel like I've been ranting on a little too long. Here we go. We got Zionic Shadow
Oh,
says
it's
it's
perfect.
normal to say I see what my kit will look like painted in my head before I even start. LOL. Yeah, I mean that's having a plan. Like
Yeah,
you know what you want and you seek to get it, and that's perfect. I'm
I
the
mean,
same
think about
way.
it. You're like manifesting into physical reality a thought in your brain, Zeonic Shadow. That's like crazy to think,
I mean,
but it can
isn't
work.
that's close to godhood right there?
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Uh, Lucas Garrett says, Robert, it's only a matter of time before it comes to that game. It's already on Gundam Breaker Mobile. I think I missed a little bit of conversation there.
Aerial,
Sorry.
aerial Gundam, because
Oh yeah,
I guess it's coming to evolution or something. So yeah,
yeah. I mean, I think you and I are probably gonna have a long conversation about Witch from Mercury tomorrow. I'm sure, right, Adam?
yeah, it'll be interesting. Yeah, it's some crazy stuff that's going on in it.
It's
I don't
wild,
even know.
you know.
Yeah.
And credit where it's due. That show has been surprising.
Yeah, and just real quick, I know we've been going on, but it's like it's mainly I think because of my inexperience with anime, but I would go on Reddit and peep. people are coming up with these theories. So I even showed in the video like the people that are saying this stuff because I was not thinking any of this stuff that people are coming up with. But when they say it, it's crazy. But it's like, wait a minute, that could be what's going on here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Ian says sometimes you just gotta let it be, let it sit and let it be. You know
Yeah.
what? John Lennon had a little bit of wisdom there until Yoko
Oh,
Ono got
uh,
going. I'm just no, we could
yeah.
probably go on for hours about the Beatles, I'm sure. But yeah, one of the things that I think was funny is you know, some of the Discord mods and folks were calling us out about the beards and the long hair. Somebody watched one of my older
Oh,
videos when I had short hair and like a clean shaven face, and I was like, yeah, I think that there's this weird phase going on with people on YouTube and people on social media where we're entering this like punished venom snake arc of our existence
yeah.
where
I don't
we
know what it is. I don't know what it is. Like I was beginning of this year, I was like, I'm not gonna shave. I'm gonna not cut my hair, and then I shaved for Luke, and now it's
yep.
No Shave November. But the hair, I've never had my hair like this before. It's I can dye it red, and I could be a clown every day. I don't know.
Well, but you know, you've got the volume, you've got the texture. I love it. I haven't had my hair this long
Appreciate it.
probably since college. I used to have my hair
Oh,
down like, you know, shoulder length because I
oh,
was a
that's cool.
rock band guy. You know, I
Yeah,
had the color shift guitar.
yeah,
um,
and I need to live that fake life before I get too old. I need to pretend I'm a rock
don't
and
we
roll
all?
man. Yeah,
I think that we're kind of entering that villain arc of our storyline. I'm leaning into it. I'm getting real dark with it. Um,
that's good. That's good.
But let's see. Hashtag shots fired. Goose, I might have missed your message. I apologize. Shirt dude says you're saying Adam having the Amro haircut was intentional. Yeah, in fact, you know he's not even Canadian.
I
um,
know. I know. That is just yeah, Amuro. I could cosplay Amuro. I need to do. Actually, I'm gonna cosplay Weird Al. I'm going to have a mustache and get the big glasses. I'm gonna
oh heck
cosplay.
yeah, dude. I think next year I'm gonna avoid cutting my hair. I'm gonna go full into Andrew WK, and I'm gonna be Andrew
Oh
WK Gundam style. I will
yes.
sing. I will sing the English version of the
My Gundam.
Daisuke Inoue Gundam rock songs. So
Nice. We need to
um,
do it, and I will drum while you sing. There you
I'm
go.
into it. This is gonna
We'll
be.
set it up.
I'm excited for this. This is we're gonna tear up the Gundam community with
Yeah,
this.
and I'll wear a Federation shirt and have my Amuro hair going on. I
And
mean,
I'll wear my
it's
Xeon uniform. That's polish thy gunpla and polish thyself. That sounds biblical, and so I'm into it. thine is the new type, and thine is the power forever and ever. There seems to be issues on Twitch chat. That yeah, there does seem to be some Twitch chat, which is surprising because
Hmm,
Twitch is the better chat platform. Well,
uh,
I think I have probably distracted you guys enough for one evening. I hope that these sort of tips have given you a little bit of insight into, you know, not everybody's perfect. Lord knows I'm not. And you guys knew
it
that I'm not. Um, like I
and it
said,
relates to your life.
I
Yeah.
am the number one most
Oh, yeah.
ratioed Gunpla YouTuber on the platform. I
Own
take
it.
pride in that. I'm the guy that has the worst reviewed Gunpla video on YouTube. Um, and you know, I think these are the types of lessons that we can learn and appreciate from. You know, it's
Yeah.
a lot of fun to talk about these kind of things with you guys. I appreciate you guys hanging out and chat with us. And of course, tomorrow over on the Gundam Explained YouTube channel, links down in the description below. We're going to be talking about some Witch from Mercury, 100%, because there's
Yeah.
definitely a lot to talk about there. We,
Yep.
you know, go ahead and watch Adam's review of Are we on episode 6 already?
6. Yeah,
Wild.
I know, it's going by
It
fast.
it, it feels it feels like this show just started, and yet
Yeah, it has a
somehow
lot of unfolding. Yeah, whereas some of the show because there are, I guess, more episodes, kinda takes time sometimes. Yeah.
yeah, this particular series, and I think that we talked about it last week, it moves fast in a lot of ways, but then it kind of drags in some others. And so there's a little bit of that tension, right? There's
Yeah.
a little bit of growing pains, I think, with it. And so I'm excited to see where it goes. But again, as always, tune in 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 Central to
Yep.
the Gundam Explained podcast over on Gundam Explained YouTube channel. Thank you guys so much for keeping the chat lively tonight. This was a lot of fun. Like I said, this was
Totally.
kind of a laid back little bit of a, I wanted to share the experiences that I've been having. Hopefully, um, alleviate you guys of some of the stress and pain that I have suffered over the last weeks and years, and have some fun doing it.
Yeah, totally.
Adam, am I missing anything? I feel like I'm missing something, but
No, I think this was just a well done, excellent show. When those excellent shows happen, sometimes we're like, "Wow, is that it?
right.
Was that?"
You're kind of like,
Yeah.
I feel like I messed up because it went so well.
Yeah.
Yeah, do go check out Nonstop Collectors over on Instagram because there's a cyberpunk cosplay build stop, and this thing it's unreal.
It's
I
cool.
I never got into cosplay personally, but I've got a couple friends in the cosplay community, and this is up there with some of the best that I've seen. Says, hey, they have Steven, thanks for the tips, valuable information. Hey, thank you, Lucas. I'm glad you got to tune in tonight.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep up with notifications. And for those of you guys that are members of the Midnight Hatter Discord or the Gundam Explained Discord, let me know if you would prefer to have roles that you have assigned to you so that you get notified when you go live. Because I've noticed that there's some issues with YouTube notifications, Twitch notifications, and so I feel bad that some people get to that some people miss out on the live because
Yeah.
this
It's
is
happened to me with other live streamers, yeah.
yeah YouTube chicanery.
Weird.
Um,
Hmm.
because I want to make sure that you guys get to be involved with the chat. I love your guys' feed very personally.
Oh,
My channel 115. Congrats on becoming dad. Tried to comment on couldn't. Oh, hey, thanks. I just became a dad this past July.
oh,
Congratulations.
congrats.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Gotta be the greatest feeling. Cherish every moment you do. And I could not be happier to uh be a father to she is she is my whole world, man. It changes everything
Yeah.
being a parent. Congratulations to you all.
Pretty much it.
My channel 15. Good to hear your that you're experiencing the joys of family life like Adam. There's nothing more rewarding than that.
Yeah. Teaches a lot.
Yeah,
Helps
teaches you
build
a lot
Gunpla.
about yourself.
Yeah, that's for sure.
it's
Yeah.
it, it's like having a little mirror that says, "Hey,
Yeah.
you
This is
can."
what you're doing wrong.
Yeah, unfortunately, but also fortunately, I think
Yeah.
that there's a lot of room for all of us to grow, and having having a child just it's so rewarding and so fulfilling. So I can't wait to do it again. um,
Oh,
hey,
exciting.
spoiler alert! I'm gonna have a whole D&D party in my house.
That or a
But
soccer team, maybe.
hey, there you go. But yeah, so thank you guys so much for tuning in. Wonderful Wednesday. Hope you guys have a great rest of your thank you so much. This was a lot of fun.
Oh,
This was a great
you're welcome.
conversation. And,
Oh, yeah.
like I said, I wanted this one to kind of go off because you and I obviously vibe really well, and we
Yep.
take these concepts that are applicable in the hobby space, but valuable, what we
In
might
life.
consider real life.
Yeah. As we go through these things, sometimes similar moments and we trade those ideas and stuff. So yeah, it's all related.
I love it. And so yeah, again, thank you guys so much. Catch you podcast because
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like always. Yep.
awesome.
For sure.
Cheers, everyone.
See y'all.